G'day friends, welcome back to Aussie Moto and Outdoors. Today we're doing a quick service on the R3. Now every 5,000 or so Ks you get this flashing light telling you it's time to change the oil. I think the major service intervals are 10,000, so 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, but in between every 5,000 you should be changing the oil. Now if you go to your mechanic or your bike shop, it's going to cost you a couple hundred or a few $100 to get this done. You can do it yourself at home. It is piss easy. It takes you half an hour, maybe 45 minutes tops. So I'm going to take you through it step by step, and let's get right into it.
Aussie, Moto and Outdoors.
So this morning the weather is just absolutely dreadful, so there'll be no riding unlike yesterday. However, the bike did let me know yesterday that it's time for an oil change, so let's get right into that. What we're going to need is a 12mm socket or spanner, the appropriate oil filter, 2.3 litres of oil, and of course an oil tray. Okay, and also crucially important is the work boots. Now you can see these pluggers have got the thicker strap, which means they offer a much higher level of protection than your regular servo pluggers. So let's slip those on. Now that I'm safe, we can get cracking. Okay, let's take a look at where we're going to be working. There is the oil filter and there's the sump plug. You don't have to take any of your fairings off. Both of these are quite easy to get at. Step number one is turning the bike on. Get it started, get the oil and the engine up to running temperatures. Now you don't need paddock stands to do this job. You can do it on your kickstand. There's just an extra step you got to do. Okay, so let's get in there with the 12mm socket, crack that sump plug and get it out of there. Now just be careful, that's the exhaust on your left, and we've just been running the bike so it's quite hot. Now this is a good time to check your oil, make sure there's no bits of steel, no crap in it, and I also check the thread of my sump plug as well. Have a look at that oil dripping out. I'm pretty sure that's a laminar flow. The next step is to get the oil filter off. Now if you reach on in there being careful of the hot exhaust, you should just be able to turn this anti-clockwise to get it off. You really shouldn't need any particular tools to get your oil filter off. Now there is a trick I can offer you if you are struggling to get the oil filter off with your hands. Now first thing you can try is switching from your weak, lame left arm to your strong wank arm. It's going to be much stronger and much more capable. Now if you still can't get the filter off, there is a tool. It's one of these. It's for strengthening your wrist. You do not need a filter wrench. Be a man. Now all of the oil won't drain out because the bike is on a lean, because we're using our kickstand instead of parallel paddock stands. So you're going to have to straighten your bike up at some stage. So stand beside it, stand it upright. Now if you can't tell exactly where upright is by standing beside it, then simply sit on the bike. Sit there for a couple of minutes. That makes sure all the rest of the oil is drained out. Okay, next we can get the oil filter out. And you'll see it's got this plastic cover on it, so just pull that off. Now the next thing we've got to do is just put a bit of oil on the seal. So dip your finger in the oil bottle, make sure your hand's clean, and just rub a bit of oil around the O-ring. It's also a good opportunity to check that the O-ring's seated properly and it's got no, cracks or tears or anything in it. You can put a bit of oil in the thread. Some people fill the filter up with oil. I don't bother doing that. That oil filter's now ready to screw back on. Just be really careful not to cross thread it, obviously, so just gently put it on, find the spot, tighten her up. Now same as taking it off, you do not need a filter wrench to do this, just put it on nice and tight. Now as I show you the little window, that's the oil filler indicator and the oil filler cap, I've realized I didn't video myself putting the sump plug back in. So it's crucially important, obviously, that you put the sump plug back in before you go pouring oil back into your bike. Now, as you're pouring it in, just check it from time to time and realize you're going to have to stand your bike up straight to see the level of the oil. While it's leaning on the kickstand, you cannot see the level of the oil in the indicator window. And I'll show you what that looks like. That's on the kickstand, and that's sitting up level. So you can see you'd have no idea on the accuracy of how much oil you've put in unless you're standing it up straight. And that's the one disadvantage of doing an oil change on the kickstand as opposed to paddock stands. Now you can screw the oil filler cap back on, and next we start it up. Now you've got to check underneath it. Check the oil filter, check the sump plug, and check the concrete or ground below it. We have to make sure there's no oil leaking.
Just one job left to do once you've replaced the oil in the filter, and that is to reset this annoying flashing oil light. Now if you see on the trip meter, you know, you can toggle through this by that button there. If you go to the one that just says trip there, and that number is how many Ks since your last oil and filter change. So if you press the reset button and hold it whilst you're on that, it'll start to blink. Take your finger off, back on and hold it until it zeros, and there we go. We now have the oil trip meter at 0 Ks. The flashing oil light has gone and we're good to go.
Now if you want to cross-reference anything I've told you here, everything I've done is in your owner's manual in section 7. It tells you exactly step by step how to change the oil. You'll also find the type of oil and the type of filter you need within that book. Now this next step isn't compulsory, but I like to do it anyway. It's time to make her look as nice as she's feeling. So thanks so much for watching. Put your phones down, get outside.